for everybody out there that's just drifting, you're putting yourself in harm's way. And I encourage you to get clear on your path and what you're trying to accomplish and live your life intentionally, because when you just do anything, you can end up in a world of hurt. You can end up in a mess.
You're listening to Guards Down. This is Greg Washington.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this next episode of Guards Down. I have back with me a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Jerome Myers. Jerome, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine. I thought you were going to give me some more. You just left off with Jerome. So I apologize for not catching the ball. It's fumble on the play. It's okay. We're going to take it back to your senior year, my junior year. We're going to get this thing rolling, man. Super excited to be with you and just grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this Guards Down journey. We've been rolling. Lots of change and lots of growth still to happen.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I wanted to touch on, man. Since the last time we talked, you have been making some strides, being featured in Black Enterprise. What is it? Within 3 years, you were able to gain or build up a $1 million portfolio in real estate?
Yeah, they put it as me, but I think it's us. You've been a part of that journey as well. You're in at least 2 of those deals. So, man, just super grateful to have amazing people who have been a part of my process and willing to participate in our deals and start this conversation around generational wealth and being examples of it to those who may not have exposure to it.
Indeed, man. And I just want to thank you because you're helping me. And for all y'all out there that's listening, man, it's a good thing when you can build wealth with people that you trust and know and love. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think too many people go and try to partner with strangers. I smile and grin when I tell people that a lot of my partners I've known for 2 decades, and that for me is exciting. And everybody's got a track record of success, and we know that people are going to do the best that they can with the opportunity that's in front of them. And if things don't go right, there's some grace, there's some forgiveness, but it's not going to not go right because the person didn't try their hardest. That's just not the way that my partners are built.
Indeed. Well, look, I want to get into it, right? Because we're talking about success. And with this episode, I wanted to touch on one of the 12 silent triggers that lead to trauma and grief. And so accidents is one of those. Being involved in any kind of accident that's unexpected, how it can impact your life, whether it be negative or positive, depending on, your focus and how you look at it. I wanted to bring you on because I know that you in the past went through a very traumatic experience being involved in an accident. And so when I talk accidents, I'm not just talking car accidents. It could be anything in general, right?
Yeah.
So you were in a car accident.
Yeah, I want to call it a collision. It was a head-on car versus dump truck situation.
And so, man, walk us through that day, you getting up and, getting ready for your day to the point when you seen your life flash before your eyes.
Yeah, I'll go to the end real quick. I was watching it from the side of the road. So it's really interesting when people talk about out-of-body experiences. I've had a few in my life, and this is certainly one of them. And so to get back to the way that you framed the question, so woke up, and it was probably my 3rd week in my new home. I just bought a home, started my new job, and I hadn't found a barbershop yet. And so my parents were there. They were up visiting, both of them for the first time. My dad had come 2 weekends before. This was the first time my mom came up. And The girl I was dating at the time was there. And I get up, I get dressed, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go get a haircut. I'll be back. And I go off, and at this point, I'm driving what was my dream car at the time. It was a Nissan Maxima that was customized, had some 20-inch wheels on it, body kit, fresh paint. I had just got it painted because we just got out the body shop. And for people who know me, they know I'm a pretty big car guy. And so driving the car, and I'm on the way back, I make a right turn, and I go down and think I'm going to find a barbershop. I don't find one. I turn around and come back, and we're on a one way each way road, right? So just a yellow line in the middle. And as I go through an intersection, I see a police officer sitting there getting ready to make a turn onto one of the side streets. And there's 3 cars behind it. And then I see a dump truck coming, and he's going way too fast to slow down. And so instead of running into the back of people or putting the dump truck in the ditch, he comes across the center line and hits me head on. And I hit the airbag, and then I'm sitting there, and I didn't really know what had changed at that point. And so I lean over, the glass on my window is shattered. I lean over and I yell at him, like, you didn't see me coming? Like, how could you not see me? I have my headlights on. How could you not see me? And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. And then right before that happened, somebody's walking around the side of my car because I'm still in the middle of the road, and says, he's dead. And I look at him and I say, I'm not dead, man. And that's when I yell at the guy in the dump truck. And then I come back. I was like, hey, can I use your phone? I want to call my parents and let them know that what happened. And he's like, you got blood all over you. I'm not going to let you use my phone. I was like, I don't have AIDS, dude. Like, let me just call my parents. And so we go back and forth a little bit. And then that's when I realized, like, I'm bleeding all over the place. I look at the airbag. There's blood all over the airbag. Got glass in my arms, cut all up, right? All the glass shattered. And so I said, call my house. Here's the number. And don't talk to any women. I want you to tell my dad that I was in an accident and tell him where to come, because I don't want anybody to freak out. I think I'm okay, but I only want my dad to deal with this. And so my neighbor went past the accident scene while we were going through all this, and they drove to my house, and they told my dad after he already got the phone call and was on his way out. And he said, and this was one of the few times where I've actually seen him get weak. He said, when I saw the car, because of course there was a pretty long backup because there was no way for the traffic to really get through, that I started to shake, and I didn't know what I was going to do and I didn't know how you could possibly be okay. And this is after I get out of the hospital and stuff. And so for an hour, I'm sitting there in the car. The dashboard is pinned, my legs against the seat. Both of my femurs, the top bone of your leg, the hardest bone of your leg, are broken. Not just broken, pretty much shattered. And eventually the volunteer fire department shows up because we were in a rural part of Virginia. They use the jaws of life to cut the door off. Then they put a jack in between my legs and jack the dashboard off of me so that they can pull me out and put me on a stretcher. Adrenaline's going. I still don't know anything's wrong. And then they put me on the stretcher, and they get ready to carry me to the helicopter so I could be flown an hour away. Driving is probably 20 or 30 minutes in a helicopter to be with one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the country. And so I'm on the stretcher, they're carrying me, and of course you're bouncing because they're walking. And I said, what are you guys doing? My leg's hanging off of the stretcher. And that was when I realized that my legs were broken, both of them. And they're like, no, you're strapped in, everything's fine. And they didn't tell me that it was broken, but I kind of put two and two together. And then on top of that, my kneecap had come through the skin. I had a open wound. And so they had to put that together. And so they put me in a helicopter. I kind of look at my dad. They give me pure oxygen to breathe to try to help with some of the shock I was experiencing. And I look at my dad and say, hey, I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And they closed the door because he can't fly with us, of course. He had to drive. And he looked at me, shook his head, and basically told me it was okay. And it was then like, I didn't know if like that was the last time I was going to go to sleep. Right? I figured I was going to be okay, but I didn't know for sure. And so helicopter, land in Richmond, end up at MCV. My dad's there when they're cleaning me up. He shows up. My former girlfriend was there. One of my best friends and his wife actually show up as well because they were at the house too. So it was a full house on a really traumatic day. And I still remember talking to the girl and I said, don't leave me. Like, whatever you do, don't leave. Like, I want you to be here when I get through this. And she didn't commit one way or the other, and she vanished. She left. She had some stuff she needed to take care of. And so I wake up after 14 hours of surgery, and my mom's there, and my girlfriend from college are there. And my whole world is turned upside down then because she and I had broke up prior to graduation, and she took another opportunity and she was going to do some stuff in another state in another part of the country. And so I was really shocked to see her because we hadn't talked for weeks prior to that. And that's pretty much when I realized everything in my life had changed, like dramatically. I was in ICU for 3 days. I spent another 3 days on the orthopedic floor. And eventually I got released, but I was released in a wheelchair instead of being able to walk and do all the things that I knew how to do for, I guess, since I was the age of 1 when I started walking. So I said a lot. I guess I should pause there and see where we go.
Man, you did say a lot. I was just sitting here just visualizing it myself, the detail that you described, the feelings that your dad felt and what you were going through. So I wanted to kind of like just touch on a couple of points, because the first thing you said is you felt like it was an outer body experience when you watched it happen.
Yeah.
So like, being able to see an accident about to happen, but not being able to do nothing about it. Yep. Right? Describe your fight, flight, or freeze, in that moment, or was it literally nothing you could do?
Yeah. So I mean, let's like really get into the details of all of this, right? So I'm driving, I'm going 60 miles an hour. I got the windows rolled even because that was my thing. Your back windows got to be as low as your front windows, right? So the windows are rolled even. Of course, I got one hand on the top of the steering wheel. I'm listening to Young Jeezy Soul Survivor, and I had a sound system. So the bass is beating, and it's, if you know that song, you know how melodic it is. And then the bass line's dropping in. And so as I see him cross the center line, I hear Akon say, Soul Survivor. I step on the brake and push it all the way to the floor with my right foot. And then I blink. And then I watch everything else happen from the side of the street. Then I come back and I can see the glass in my arms as I'm looking down and looking around. And it's like I knew what happened the whole time, but I didn't experience the pain of it actually happening. And so the adrenaline is running and rushing. And so I guess it's stunning some of the pain. And they didn't release me from the dashboard until the helicopter got there in case I went into shock.
Yeah.
Like everybody else knew how bad it was. I didn't. Right. And so that is I don't know, man. It's game changing because it was so quick, right? I mean, it's literally 2 seconds. Could I have done something? Sure. I could have drove into the gas station to try to avoid it, but maybe instead of hitting me head on, he hits me in the door and crushes me instead of having to go through the engine. Mm-hmm. After it happened, I talked to one of my mentors from college and I told her, well, if I had been on my Hayabusa instead, then I could have just maneuvered it and been fine. And I think that was the last time she talked to me because she thought I was just being delusional and ridiculous. Right. But I mean, when I hit the brakes, the only thing that I thought I could do was stop.
Just wait for impact, huh? No thoughts came to mind. You didn't say anything. It was just.
Nope. And I think after I came back in, the only thing that I thought was I'm glad that nobody came with me on this car trip.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, adrenaline kicking in. And here you are having almost an argument with what should have been a good Samaritan, right? Tell me about that. Like, because listening to it, I kind of had some mixed feelings about like the amount of help or, you know what I'm saying? Like the compliance that this guy had, with you, like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people have whatever and it's okay. I mean, he made the phone call, right? I had to get out of, I'm going to fix this for myself. I'm going to take care of it to, I just have to be okay with letting other people help me. Like that's what this boiled down to from my perspective. And so, all right, well, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Will you help me accomplish it? And he was willing to do that. But I mean, I was irritated. I was frustrated. I just literally, like, my car just got finished, man. Like, I wanted a car with a body kit and rims and the whole deal my whole life. I had a fully customized car and now it was gone. Right? That was what I was thinking about because that was one of the dreams that I realized and I was enjoying it. But the thing that I learned on this particular trip was if you don't know where you're going, you're going to hate where you end up. Had I just taken the time to figure out where it was, ask somebody, so on and so forth, then it probably would have went a whole lot different because I wouldn't even have been on that road because the barbershop was on a totally different road. Now, this area that we were in, it didn't even have a stoplight. Or if it did, it only had one stoplight. So it was so big. Mm-hmm. But, me just being the adventurer and I'm just going to figure it out. I'm going to go on my own way, put me in a precarious situation. And so I just know for a fact that for everybody out there that's just drifting, you're putting yourself in harm's way. And I encourage you to get clear on your path and what you're trying to accomplish and live your life intentionally, because when you just do anything, you can end up in a world of hurt. You can end up in a mess.
Yeah. I do want to touch on like the lesson learned from it. What I want to get back to like the incident. So you spoke about, of course, your adrenaline is running. You don't feel anything. You don't know how bad the damage is. You see a little bit of it, but you don't know. Why was it that you only wanted your dad?
I felt like he was the only one that can handle the situation well, right? For me, he's a hero, right? He did Vietnam evacuation, but like, he's surgically precise. Like it's just, okay, here's the outcome. Here's the mission. boom, boom, boom. There's just no emotion tied to it. It's just, we're going to take care of this. And then once the outcome is done, we debrief, we talk about the other stuff. But when it's time for crisis, it's time to handle a crisis and make decisions. I've never seen anything like it. And so I thought he was the best person to handle the situation. I would want to do it myself because I don't want to be a bother to other people or a burden. But if I'm going to pick somebody to try to carry my load because I can't carry it, then he's always been the person that I turn to.
I got you. So the help that you wanted, or like a help that anyone, like I want to generalize this to get a better understanding. Growing up, did you always turn to your father more than your mom? Can you say that that's the same reason why you chose him for that, to be there?
No, I mean, I never turned to my dad for emotional support, right? My mom was always that. My mom was my best friend growing up. It was just I had some idea of the gravity of the situation. And I felt like he would make logical decisions instead of emotional decisions in this situation. And I thought that was what the most important thing was. Like, in all seriousness, like both of my legs could have needed to be amputated. Fortunately, they didn't need to be, but they could have been.
Yeah.
And, could my mom make that decision? No. Could my dad? Yeah. Could he live with me being upset because he made the decision? Yeah. Could my mom? Probably not. And so back to just detaching from the emotion of the situation, I think he's the person. And so for big decisions, big strategic decisions, he's been the person. For the guidance and the support along the way, especially from an emotional standpoint, yeah, mom would do that. And so what's interesting is everything up until the point where I got home was really dad. And then mom took over until I could walk again and start taking care of myself.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about once they got you out and they're taking you to the ambulance. They got you in the carrier. It's almost, I'm not going to say comical, because I think about, I've had a broken hand, right? And so I remember playing football and breaking a finger during a play and running back to the sideline and feeling my finger move independently of the rest of my body, right? So I got what you saying when you said that, and I chuckle now, right, for the both of us, because it's like, I know that feeling. Like, why is my stuff moving way different than what it's supposed to be?
It's all loose, baby. It's loose. I don't know what you did. It's supposed to be loose like that.
Right. And so was that a shock to feel your body move differently than what it normally does?
It's absolutely terrifying, right? Because I'd only broken one bone prior to that, and I had to actually have surgery to correct it. But yeah, it was absolutely terrifying because they didn't tell me that my legs were broken. They didn't tell me anything. They didn't tell me that I had a compound fracture on my kneecap. None of that. So they just took some glass out of my arm and strapped me on the board and said, make sure you don't move your head. That was it.
All right. And then to go from this big adrenaline rush to not feeling nothing, to now knowing that, your body's moving way different than normal, to now being almost put to sleep, right? Can you talk us through that feeling of, all right, I'm about to go to sleep. I don't know if I'm going to wake up.
Yeah, I literally was saying goodbye in the most manly way that I could, because I didn't know. Like I was in a space I'd never been before. I knew it had to be kind of a big deal, right? A helicopter, medevac, kind of a big deal. But outside of that, I didn't know what the next steps were. And so absolutely terrified, right? No other way around it. I wish I could say, oh yeah, I knew everything was going to be okay and I'm a man, but no, I had no idea. And I think it was probably up until that point, death was probably my biggest fear. And I think loneliness was the only thing that was a close second to it. And I got to deal with both of those in this situation in a way that has freed me forever.
Explain that.
Yeah. So,
well
you look definitely.
Before you explain that, because this is like a crucial part or a critical part. What were you telling yourself? Were you trying to calm yourself? Were you trying to fight the sleep?
No, I knew that it was inevitable. Like I was surrendering to whatever the process was at this point. Whatever was next is all that I had. I wanted people to know that, hey, I'm sleepy and I don't know why I'm sleepy. And if something's wrong, I need you to do something because I'm literally strapped to this board. Right? I can't move my arms. I can't move my head. I can't move my legs. I can't do anything but lay here. And so I'm totally dependent on other people. And at that point, all you can do is surrender to the process. You can fight, but they said you can't move your neck. That could potentially paralyze you for the rest of your life. I'm not moving. Because I think outside of those two things, the loneliness and the death, the only other thing that I ever worried about was being a vegetable.
Yeah.
Because I've always told people, and particularly my dad, I was like, if I can't do anything for myself, pull the plug, bro. Like if I can't breathe for myself, pull the plug. I don't want people traipsing back and forth to the hospital to see me have a machine breathe for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fear of death and loneliness and having to go through the eye, through the valley, through that threshold, right? And what it was like coming out on the other side.
Yeah. So when you look death in the face and like, yeah, you didn't kill me this time. There's a familiarity with it that makes it not so scary anymore. Right? Because I've been there. Right? Like I had somebody tell me I was dead at the accident. Literally walk up to me, look at me and say I'm dead. Which I could respond, no, I'm not. So that familiarity with it just takes it away. Like, and the other piece of it is I'm going to live my life, particularly every day of my life, in a way that if this is my last, then I don't have anything left in the tank anyway. You know, I didn't want to be a person who took my dreams to the grave anymore. And so on the backside of that, it's live out your dream, live out your best self, whatever that is, and tell as many people about it as you possibly can, because you have this experience and you know that in the blink of an eye, you can die or your life can change in a way that you never expected it to change. Yeah. For the loneliness piece, when I woke up from all of that surgery, I expected to see the person that I saw prior to going into surgery. Yeah, he wasn't there.
I definitely want to hit that part. When I heard you talk, right, about submitting to the process, I know that a lot of veterans can relate to you on that front when it comes to like being in deployments. So for us, knowing that we have a job to do while you're deployed, knowing that you're either going to get attacked or someone is plotting to kill you, you know, I relate to you on that front, because it's like I got to submit to the fact that this is what life is what I signed up for. And this is what the day has brought me, you know? And so I really felt you when you said you got to submit to the process of it. I know a lot of veterans. I know I just recently spoke with one, and they was like every day or every other day, they were getting mortar attacked, you know, at their base that they were going to. And it just got to a point where she detached herself mentally and emotionally and was, you know, just there. And I know for me being on a couple of missions, you know, I always look at it as like this light switch you just turn off, right? It's just like, fuck it. Turn this light switch off. Let's go. You know?
Yeah. That's not normal though, right? That is something only that our heroes can do, right? In normal civilization, you can't turn the light switch on and off. And people talk about it with sports, right? You go to that dark place as a football player or a wrestler or MMA fighter, or whatever the super barbaric tasks that we tend to do for entertainment. But in everyday life, that's not real, because there's no more saber-toothed tigers that we're trying to run away from or conquer, right? Like the best we've got is a dog that may or may not actually be able to really do some damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I found it very hard coming back and being able to have the same type of care and compassion for people that are going through, because being in that experience, that pushed my threshold for tolerance, for pain, for death, right? Or the fear of miles out, you know? And so it's like, oh, no, you're not compassionate, or, you know, you're detached.
Cold, numb. Cold and numb is the word you get.
And so to hear you say that you went through this, not knowing that you didn't know if you were going to wake up or not, to being with your current girlfriend and asking her to not leave you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, talk us through that, because that sounds like a book in itself.
Yeah, I mean, super young, right? 22 and 21, still like too early to actually really understand what I was asking of her. And, you know, talking with her about it afterwards, she absolutely would have done something different than what she did, but she made the choice, and it's had far-reaching impacts for me when you talk about numb and being cold and some of this other stuff. And so, you know, laying on a gurney, getting prepped for surgery, last person you see, you look them in the eye and say, hey, don't leave me. I don't think I've ever actually said that before, and especially not in such a vulnerable state. And to think that she didn't make sure that I got out of surgery and some of this other stuff was like extremely hurtful, bruising to the ego, right? But everybody's got their own path that they're on. And if I like really think about it, like I probably made the relationship out to be a whole lot more than what it was. Just there wasn't enough time. She helped me through transition from being somebody who was in college to somebody who was a young working professional. And they were some pretty meaningful contributions to my world. And because she showed up when she did, that accelerated the dependency and the probably admiration that came with the ability to be able to count on and trust somebody with these things that were so important.
Yeah.
And so when I woke up and she wasn't there, talk about a reality check.
Yeah. Man, I was going to ask you, right? And you hit it, the nail on the head. I was going to ask you, do you think you asked too much of her to be there?
In hindsight, probably, right? I mean, that's a lot, right? Like, literally don't know if this person's ever going to walk again. Literally don't know that, right? Literally don't know if this person has income to pay for the house they just bought, because you don't know how long they're going to be out of work, or even if they can go back to work. Like, there's just so many unknowns. We hadn't graduated college yet. Like, there was just all of these levels of, hey, I'm in need right now. I need you to show up for me. That's what I knew, right? And the window was compressed, right? I mean, accident was August 13th, 2005, right? At like 11 o'clock on that Saturday morning. I'm in the hospital at 3 or 4, getting ready to go into surgery. They operate on me through the night, 14 hours. And so to think that, we couldn't figure out if she should hang out until Sunday or tell me, no, I can't do that in that moment. Like, for me, I think that part would have been a whole lot better. She just said, I got to go do this. I think the communication piece is the thing that mattered most for me, because then I wouldn't have woke up thinking she was there. I mean, when I woke up and my mom was sitting beside my bed, I asked where she was. And she told me that she left. And then she said, but somebody else is here. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I said some mean words because I was upset with the person that I dated in college, because I felt like she left me. I made some decisions with the thought that she would be a part of my life, and she chose not to be. And now, because I was in an accident, all of a sudden she wanted to rush back and come back and help. But, she didn't actually want to be there initially. So, that goes back to ego and pride and some of this other stuff and wanting to be chose. And I think everybody has those emotions, and you got to have a mature conversation about that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, because man, like, this is really good, because now we can talk about relationships, right? And so old versus new relationships, what you're asking of the person, right? Knowing that communication matters. And being faced with like that test, like that's like the ultimate test in my book, right? To see if the person that says they love you are really going to show up when the shit hits the fan. Right?
Yeah. And so that's the thing for me, G, that I don't think most people understand, because like when you come into my circle, like you're family, I'm an only child, right? And so I've had the opportunity to pick my brothers and sisters and so on and so forth. But we show up for each other. Like when the person's in need, because we don't throw around, I need your help very often. But when somebody says, I need you, if you have the capacity, you show up. And because you know what it takes for the person to ask you to show up. I think everybody that I'm close to is a superhero in their own right. Like they're able to move mountains, and they do it for people continuously. So when they have to turn to somebody else and say, no, I need you, I need your help, you need to figure out how to be a superhero for them. And I don't think most people get that. They don't have that level of responsibility or level of accountability to the people that are there. They're good. They're okay if they don't do it. They don't feel like it's a life or death situation. And for the people who are in my inner circle, when they raise their hand and they say they need something, they get it. And I expect the same from them.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this old versus new, right? Relationship. You're sitting here in the hospital. You just woke up thinking that your new love of your life is going to be there. And the old love of your life is there, huh?
Yeah. Surprise. Right. And, how do you throw away 4 years like that? I don't know that you do. And so after I said the things I said, she chose to hang around, and she made a commitment that she would stay until I could walk again. And that was as far as she was committing. And I appreciated it because I needed help. And I knew that my mom couldn't do everything herself. And I knew my dad was going to have to go back to work. And so, I was a decent sized person. I needed some help, and I really couldn't do anything. Eventually I could ride around in a wheelchair, but not much after that. So I needed the support, and she was more than willing to do that for me without me really asking her to.
Yeah. Man, did that make you look at love differently?
When I proposed to her, I told her that she showed me what love truly was. Because I don't know anybody that basically, she literally turned her back on the life that she'd started in the new place to come take care of somebody who was crippled without me asking her to do that. She felt compelled to do something about it. Now, the person we were talking about before left in the middle of the crisis, right? And so you stack those two things together, you're like, well, how is that even possible? That, one would do this and one would do that. And how could you be confused about what love actually is? And I think love is it's a verb, right? You take action, you move. And if somebody's got to ask you to do this or do that, I'm not convinced that you're acting out of love.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it changed everything for me, dude.
Yeah.
Everything.
No, I appreciate you just sharing and opening up, because I do know, for myself and other people out there, when you go through struggles, it is a reality check on who's going to hold to their word and their value of love and their value of you to help be there. And so for anyone that is going through or have dealt with, it's tough, right? And so if you ask of someone a lot, the person has the choice to commit or way, and you can't hold that against them. It's just it is just really a reality check of, okay, now you've shown me your true colors, who you are. I know now what I need to do and how I need to move. And that's just my opinion.
Well, and it's true, right? Like, how people really feel when it comes down to how they spend their money, a promotion, and them having to do something that you can't compensate them for doing, right? Like, people have to make those decisions, and there's not always some middle road or middle ground on it. Sometimes it's black and white, right? I'm either doing this or I'm not. And so when you get to the place where people have to make the choice, it gets scary for a lot of people because now they can't just kind of allude to it. They can't just kind of play with it. They actually have to they have to show where they are. And the only time that gets ugly is when a person thinks that the relationship is at X and it's really at Y. And Y isn't the outcome that you desire most.
Yeah. Okay. And so this brings me to kind of like this big picture. Here you are, got into an accident at a young age, life flashed before your eyes, not knowing if you're going to make it, one, be a cripple or even a vegetable, right? To now being a soon-to-be multi-million-dollar success, right? You said something earlier of, man, I was driving my dream car. This is everything that I wanted. And so what came to mind was you had checked the box of success for one of your goals. And so knowing that, because I know you, so I knew you loved cars since you were in middle school. And so to know that you built your way up to achieving that goal of having that kind of car, right? To check that box, to only have it, but for, a small amount of time compared to what it took for you to get there. Let's talk about success when it comes to overcoming tough obstacles. For you, the accident, the physical, the mental part, just to get to walking again, to having accomplished the goal, to being brought back down to nothing and then build yourself back up. Like, what are your thoughts on success after an accident?
So the only real success is significance. You can have all the money in the world, you can have all the material possessions, but if it doesn't matter, if you don't matter to other people, then you're doing it all for nothing, right? And that is the takeaway. Being able to positively impact the lives of other people is the game. It is the only way that you try to find real fulfillment. And what I've watched as a coach is people spending all types of money to buy things that they don't really want to impress people who they don't even care about and aren't paying attention to them. And it all just ends up frustrating them, and they don't actually end up getting the things that they want. And that in and of itself is just terrifying, man. Because we've been taught that we're inadequate. We've been taught that we do not deserve the things that we want or desire most. And that, for me, is what I call a distraction. We're running around trying to fill these holes in our soul with material things, and those material things don't matter. They don't matter. But if you look at TV, if you listen to most music, like all of those things will tell you that this is the most important thing to do. And this is the only way things are going to get better. And the other end of that spectrum is numbing it through alcohol or food or promiscuous activity or gambling or some of these other things where all we're doing is really numbing the issue, the pain, the challenge. And that in and of itself prevents us from actually experiencing the real highs of life. You can't numb the pain and not numb the upside.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And that's whether it's a physical injury or a moral injury or trauma or grief that you're dealing with. When you look to numb the pain, you're also numbing the happiness and the good memories as well. And so you have to be willing and open to be along for the full ride and not just part of it. I sit here and I think, because I woke up yesterday morning and this thought came to mind of, because a person had asked me a long time ago, what did I think of religion? And I remember giving an answer along the lines of, God don't hear my prayers. Right? Because if he did.
Yeah, life would look like this.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And
Been there.
I woke up the other morning and listened to this song. And I thought to myself, had I not gone through that silent period of just having to be in this empty space to hear myself and to connect with myself and to come to a point of being at peace with myself, like I don't think I would have ever made it here to be able to be happy and enjoy life and connect with people on such a level like I'm doing now. And so my question to you is, what advice would you give someone that is going through an accident, that may be looking at, that hopelessness of, my life is never going to be the same?
You're right. And you don't want it to be. Right? If you survived, then you have that as something in your catalog as something that tried to kill you and couldn't, which makes you stronger than you've ever been. Will you enjoy whatever it is that you think you're going to lose again? Probably not. But you can absolutely enjoy all these other things. And in your struggle, in your pain, in that tragedy, it's a story of triumph that you can share with other people to inspire them to live their best life, whatever that may be. And so the only suffering that we have is when we are being selfish. I'm pissing people off, but it's okay because I know this to be a fact. It's the truth. When you start worrying about yourself and complaining about your situation and your position, you're being selfish. Start focusing on other people, how you can improve their world and their lives. And I guarantee you forget about all the pain and suffering that you have. That's the secret. That's why you went through it.
Indeed. Look, I'm sitting here. We done spoke twice at the same time. I was saying, you make it sound so easy.
But it is. It's just a choice. We make this super complicated. We give all of our power away. Well, they made me do this and I had to do that. And no, you chose all of the stuff that you chose. This thing happened. You get to decide what it means for you. You get to decide what it means for you. It's not predetermined. You get to decide what it means. It either happened to you or it happened for you. If it happened for you, then you got to figure out how to make the best of it. If it happened to you, then you sit there and you can be a victim, but it's not going to get any better. Nobody's coming to save you. It's on you. It really is. Every single time.
Indeed. I agree. And for those out there, man, like just to kind of like sum it up, your choice is your superpower. Right? And man, this has been very inspiring. Like I truly appreciate you just open up and sharing. And so for anyone that's out there that is dealing with the pain and the suffering from having been in an accident, right? True, your life is not going to be the same afterwards. It's going to be different. But your choice in how you choose to live it, the direction you choose to take your life from that point on, I mean, that's completely up to you. You still get to define your happiness. And so, man, I just hope that to the people out there listening, I hope you got something from this, because I know I did. So thank you, brother.
I'm grateful to be here, man. I think this platform you're building is exceptional. I think it's going to change the world in ways that people have no idea so far. And to be on the front end of the journey with you is exciting. I hope you continue to go down this path and deliver this thing that I think you were uniquely put here to deliver to the world.
Indeed.
Think we'll be able to get some traction out of this?
I think so. And so look, so all you Guards Down listeners out there, I want to thank you for tuning in. This is Jerome and Greg telling you to stay safe, stay focused, and stay engaged. We're out.
You've been listening to Guards Down with Greg Washington. PTSD and complicated grief are very real. About 8 out of every 100 people will have PTSD at some point in their lives. About 20 to 54% of people with complicated grief will simultaneously suffer from major depressive disorder. And that's why shows like this are hugely important. Raising awareness for PTSD and complicated grief. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us at guardsdown.com. We are iron.org, on Facebook at Guards Down, and find us on YouTube and Instagram.